For this week on the Rebel Report, our Rebels on the gridiron close out their season with a win against their rivals. We'll discuss what's in store for them going forward.
And we look at the Lady Rebels' start of the season leading up to their first road trip. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rebel Report. I'm Diego Escobar.
And I'm Justin Brooks.
And 'tis the season, for sports that is.
Absolutely. It's a great time of the year where there are a lot of many leagues showcased, so we're nothing short of highlights and great matchups and entertainment.
UNLV football head coach Marcus Arroyo was fired on Monday. This came after a home victory against in-state rival UNR. UNLV's athletic department says they thank Marcus Arroyo for his efforts leading our student-athletes on and off the field. The university says with increased expectations, they think the change was a top priority. Arroyo was 3 years into a 5-year contract and ends his coaching career with a record of 7 wins and 23 losses. Eric Harper, director of athletics, laid out what he is looking for in the next head coach.
I want someone that's going to obviously continue our recent success academically, but someone is going to bring a championship mindset to what we need to do. We want to be better than we are today.
For now, Kenwick Thompson will be the interim head coach for the team. Thompson is the associate head coach and linebackers coach. And check this out. On Tuesday morning, ex-coach Arroyo said, quote, "I am incredibly grateful for the opportunity to have served as a head coach at UNLV, and I want to thank the entire UNLV family for your support." He also said he was disappointed to not be able to finish the season, but he wished the best of luck to the next coaches. To take a dive deeper into the state of UNLV football, we'll now head over to our discussion panel.
Thank you, Diego. And today we're going to continue with football, and I'm here joined by Dominic Paxton and former UNLV running back Charles Williams. And just continuing with former coach Arroyo, we've seen his record, 7-23, and UNLV felt like they needed to move in a different direction with the head coach. And what are your guys' thoughts on the firing? Was it a surprise? Did it come very soon? What's your guys' thoughts?
I feel like, it was definitely a surprise to most people because even though we went 0-6 during the COVID year and then 2-10 the year after and then 5-7 this year, it was an increase in wins each year. So you really can't get too mad at somebody for trying to at least do what he's supposed to do. Now, I understand the 6-game skid that we put out there and the game Hawaii, especially, that kind of hurt, our chances of making the bowl. If that has something to do with the firing, I just feel like it's a little too early to do it because he only had 3 years to show what he can do. Now, I understand he brought in a lot of talent and he also brought in a lot of coaches that helped this team get better each year. And you're seeing the team blossom during the 4-1 streak. I just feel like it was a little too early in my opinion, though, yes. Right,
and speaking on that, this is the first kind of year that Coach Arroyo would have had his freshmen, his sophomores that he brought in. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of tough that they kind of cut that short early.
Yeah, real tough.
I was pretty surprised about it too. The timing alone was very shocking to me after the Reno win. But like Chuck had said, with his record, right. It wasn't a shock with the record that he had for the past 3 years. So yeah, with the Reno win, I was very shocked about it though. I wish they had given him more time to work with his freshman and sophomore and continue to work with them and see what he could have done.
And I echo a lot of what Chuck said. Just, the record, that's why I was mostly surprised. The record was 7-23 all time in 3 years. But I felt like with the increasing win totals over the last 3 years and all of the recruiting that he's done and all of the JUCO transfers and other transfers, I think that would have bought him another year at least. Mm-hmm. And giving him that opportunity, we put this team together, now let's see what this team can do. And they started out hot, 4-1, and Doug Brumfield gets injured in that game against San Jose State, started a bit of a rough patch, but I really think that could have bought him another season. And that's when I was expecting him to be on the hot seat, was he built this program up, and he said that a lot throughout the years in press conferences and interviews. He was talking about building up the program and rebuilding it in his image, and I don't think he really got that chance to do that. And a lot like what Paxton said, the timing. They were painting the cannon on campus, and it was officially announced maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours before that was supposed to happen. And that shocked me more than the firing itself, just because I felt like maybe he would have at least gotten a day to celebrate the biggest win of his career at UNLV with his players.
Right, and that obviously blew up Twitter. I think everyone was kind of seeing that morning. And remaining with the coach conversation, what do you guys want to see out of like the next head coach, and maybe if you guys know who you guys have in mind, if you could tell us?
I really don't know who's going to be the head coach, but I feel like the person that would fit UNLV best is somebody that understands UNLV football, and that's, the tough teams that came through in the past. I've always had coaches that are hard on the players, make sure that they're disciplined, and then even when everybody has this counted out, we're going to go out there and fight and scrap into the last minute or the last second on the clock. And I don't know who that's going to be at UNLV, but hopefully the AD, Eric Harper, finds out who it is sooner than later, because there's a lot of candidates out there, but there's a lot of other schools out there trying to find somebody too. So we need to lure somebody in as fast as we can that's the right person for the right job.
I think it's possible with this to get somebody that knows the team well, so possibly maybe just the interim head coach and the assistant, just to like maybe bump him up. I also have a list of people that I think would be good. Brian Harrison from Boise State, he was a former coach in 14. I think he would be really interesting, as well as Mike Stoops from Arizona. He worked with the AD, who's now here at UNLV. So I know they have a good connection, so that might work as well.
And with me, I'm just kind of following the Twitter aspect. Deion Sanders has been a big name that's popped up everywhere.
Prime time.
I just think it would be really funny if he came here. It'd be a huge story. I mean, you have prime time coming to Las Vegas, and it's such a growing city. So I think he fits well in Las Vegas, and just seeing the way he's coached in the past, I feel like he would fit the culture pretty well. And even then, he's interviewed at Colorado, and in the countless articles I have read and just like researching, a lot of people have been ripping Colorado's football program too. So it's not like he would be coming into, not to knock the program, it's not like he'd be coming into anything different. He's coming into a program that's growing. Mm-hmm. But Marcus Royal gave him a really good, I guess, base or foundation that he could come into. And this was a bowl caliber team, 5 wins, and they were a few plays away from winning against Hawaii and clinching a bowl berth. Yeah. So this team is right on the cusp, and they're losing a lot of players. Adam Plant Jr. going to the draft, but Arroyo has done a great job of recruiting, and he's really kind of built this team foundation-wise, and is just waiting for a great coach to come in and take them to the next level.
Right. Well, thank you for all my panelists here, and we'll send it right back to the desk.
Thanks, guys. The regular season is over for UNLV, and the Mountain West has announced their players for the All Mountain West teams.
These players are recognized for their excellence on the field throughout the 2022 season. Linebacker Austin Ajike was selected for the All Mountain West first defensive team. This season, he has recorded 3 sacks with 124 total tackles.
Kicker Daniel Gutierrez and defensive lineman Adam Plant Jr. for the All Mountain West second team. Gutierrez is the most accurate kicker in school's history and cemented his status as the new leading kicker scorer all time for UNLV. As for Adam Plant Jr., he was selected on his stride on defense, accumulating 7 sacks for the season as well as 55 total tackles. The Fremont cannon is red, literally all of it. The UNLV football team pulled the cannon over to our student union so fans can help the cannon paint the cannon red. Wyatt Touche takes us there on the scene.
What's going on, Rebel Nation? I'm Wyatt Touche with the Rebel Report. We're about to paint this Fremont cannon scarlet and gray. Let's go! Here live with Daniel Gutierrez, your UNLV Rebel kicker. Daniel, how are you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm very happy. The cannon's finally red. I'm happy.
How special is this to you?
Oh, it means a lot. I've been here 6 seasons. I was 2-3, going into my final game here with the Rebels, and then just to finish out 3-3 and sending me on a high note, it's a good feeling.
What's your message to Rebel Nation?
Just keep sticking it out. We get to play at Allegiant Stadium. It's like one of the most prettiest college stadiums ever. And if you guys can pack it out for these guys next year, then please do so.
Daniel, thank you. Appreciate it.
UNLV volleyball has had a very successful season, both as a team and for the players that make up the squad. The Rebels were selected this past Sunday to play in the NCAA tournament for their 4th appearance in program's history. The team took on the Washington State, who is ranked 7th in the nation. For more on what happened, we send it over to Wyatt Touche.
UNLV volleyball was nothing but dominant this season. The Rebels recorded an overall record of 26-5 while displaying a remarkable 17-game winning streak that was the 4th most in the nation. The Rebels claimed the Mountain West regular season crown and was the first team to clinch a postseason spot for the Mountain West tournament. UNLV made its 5th straight postseason trip, which is 10th in program history. This year showing the 4th ever for the Rebels in the NCAA tournament was against the 7th nationally ranked Washington State Cougars. UNLV lost 0-3, but the match did not reflect the season they played. The Mountain West Conference acknowledged a few individuals that made great impacts this season. Head coach Don Sullivan won the Coach of the Year award. This is her 5th straight season coaching for UNLV. She earned 100 career wins earlier in the season, which is now the fastest in program history. Senior setter Jenna Gabriel, the Mountain West Volleyball Newcomer of the Year, came over from Texas, and she is the first Rebel to win this award since 2010. Led the Mountain West in assists with 1,149. She recorded 26 service aces and 286 digs. Now, the Mountain West Volleyball Player of the Year, junior outside hitter Isabel Martin. This is the 3rd straight year for a Rebel to win the Mountain West Player of the Year. She earned 2 honors for Offensive Player of the Week earlier in the season and recorded 435 kills and 271 digs. The 2022 season for volleyball was definitely one for the history books.
The Lady Rebels have gotten off to a successful start. Our beat reporter Jared Feldman tell us more.
Coming off the UNLV Thanksgiving tournament, the Lady Rebels took home the tournament championship and are 7-0, their best start in 32 seasons. The Rebels' defense has been a big part of their early season success, with the team averaging 9 steals and forcing 18 turnovers per game. Reigning Mountain West Player of the Year, Desiree Young is leading the Rebels this season, averaging 17 points and 9 rebounds. Coach Larocque spoke on starting the season strong before heading on their first road trip of the season.
Did our job here to start the season, and I think we've got some good momentum. We're definitely not a finished product by any means, and I think that's like the message of we're playing well and we're close. We're close to where we can be, but we're not there yet.
The Lady Rebels will now take their show on the road and head out west for the first game of their 4-game road trip in Stockton, California, taking on the Pacific Tigers. Stay tuned for coverage of that game. I'm Jared Feldman.
Taking home the top spot of the SoCal Challenge, the Running Rebels returned to the MAC for a game homestand against Life Pacific. The Rebels blew out Life Pacific in a 72-point win, extending their record to 7-0, their best start in 11 years. 14 out of the 15 Rebels on the roster scored in this game, with 10 of those Rebels scoring in or near double digits. The Rebels continued to force turnovers, entering this game 4th in the nation with 22.5 turnovers per game. With the Rebels committing 23 against Life Pacific, Coach Kevin Kruger tells us how the Rebels have built up chemistry, how they brought into the system, and continue to take reps together as a team.
I think it's just, they root for each other. They all respect and appreciate how hard they work every day. But I think they respect and appreciate how hard each other works every day. And, I think they look after each other. We've got a handful of situations where we've got older guys that have kind of taken younger guys or new guys under their wing. And when you talk about the core group of returners, that they want to win. And when you have a group that just wants to win, I think you can have a good chemistry.
The Rebels head back to Southern California, where they will play their first true road game tomorrow at 7 p.m. against the University of San Diego.
Big news, Las Vegas won the NCAA bid to host the men's Final Four championship in 2028 inside Allegiant Stadium. Planning for this event has already started. Steve Hill, the CEO and president of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, says it was an easy pitch to the NCAA. Southern Nevada is the home of several conference basketball championship tournaments every year, including the Pac-12, Mountain West, and Big West. Clark County Commissioner Jim Gibson released a statement saying, quote, "The Final Four has never come to Las Vegas. It's clearly time. The decision further solidifies our reputation as the sports capital of the world. It's sensational." Now we move to the NBA about basketball and the current landscape within the league. Let's send it over to Nick Sylvester. He has more.
This season is flying by fast as we are entering December, and the league is starting to take shape as the early surprise teams are falling back to earth. And the teams who started at the bottom are finally starting to climb their way to the top, where all the NBA experts had them before the season. The Phoenix Suns and Boston Celtics have clearly separated themselves from the rest of the league in their respective conferences, as the Suns sit atop of the Western Conference at 14-6, while the Celtics are 17-4 atop of the Eastern Conference standings. Now, there seems to be a problem that the NBA has been facing for quite some time now with players sitting out regular season games due to rest or load management. Teams setting up their schedule to have it to where they are resting star players on nights where they view the opponent to not be as strong, therefore taking the excitement of these games away. An 82-game season with a good amount of back-to-backs where teams are setting themselves up early in the season to rest star players, and we are seeing this happening with the Clippers and their two stars, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, has only appeared in 5 out of 21 regular season games thus far. Now, he was cleared at the beginning of the season and he was supposed to regain form, but they decided to rest and load manage him early on. Now, being injured and not being able to play is one thing, but resting guys early on is not what fans and the league wants to see. As fans are beginning to grow impatient, we will see what the NBA has in store to fix this issue and bring back the excitement of NBA regular season games, and also bring back the importance of winning them and positioning themselves for the playoffs. And we'll send it back to you, Justin.
Thanks, Nick. Our very own Jay Thomas sat down with Pro Football Hall of Famer Emmett Thomas to talk about his pre-football life and his career as a player and a coach in the NFL. Let's take a listen.
You came in as an undrafted free agent. So did you feel like you had a chip on your shoulder, like you had something to prove?
Every minute, every day, every hour, every time I hit the field or walked into the classroom as a teacher or a player, I thought I had something to prove, and I worked hard at it. And I was always blessed to have a good group of guys that would listen and work hard and pursue their craft.
The Raiders have found a way to stay in the win column this past week by beating the Seahawks in Seattle. This makes the Raiders' second win in a row, which puts the Raiders' record now to 4-7 and third in the AFC West. That being said, let's take a look at some of the highlights from the game. The Raiders did not start off too hot. As for the first play of the game, Derek Carr threw an interception that led to the Seahawks scoring a touchdown. However, the Raiders did respond quick with a touchdown scored of their own by Amir Abdullah. The defense came alive by sacking Geno Smith, and Derek Carr threw another pick to Quandre Diggs, and that would be his second interception on the day. The Raiders' defense stayed hot, though, by almost intercepting a pass by Geno, but was ruled not a catch. And look at this, everybody, everyone's favorite turkey ball play, the flea flicker. That leads to a Mac Hollins touchdown. Geno tries to rally the Seahawks back, but throws an interception himself, caught by no other than Denzel Perryman, which puts the Raiders into good field position. And this is where it gets interesting, because Josh Jacobs makes his first touchdown of the game as he cuts through the line and stiff arms a Seahawk lineman for a 30-yard run into the end zone. The Seahawks would fight back, however, scoring 2 more touchdowns, one by Ty Lockett and then another touchdown run by Kenneth Walker. But for an exciting turn of events, Derek Carr drops a dime pass to Foster Moreau, which brings us to the best kind of football, overtime. Overtime did not last long, though, as Josh Jacobs decided to call game with an 86-yard touchdown that sealed a win for the Silver and Black. Josh Jacobs ended up having a career game, finishing with 303 all-purpose yards. That means 229 yards on the ground and 79 in the air. According to the NFL Network, Josh Jacobs had more total yards than 7 teams in the NFL during Week 12. Now, the Raiders have a big divisional rival in the Chargers coming here to Las Vegas. The Raiders lost their first matchup against the Bolts. So here are the 3 keys for the Raiders to succeed. Key number 1, keep running the ball. With the big success the run game had against Seattle, it is best for the Raiders to continue to keep rushing the ball, especially against a Chargers defense that is riddled with injuries and is ranked 28th in rushing defense. The Raiders should find success if they keep running the ball. Key number 2, watch the deep ball. LA has some star wide receivers that could be a big threat to the Raiders. If the Raiders can keep the coverage tight and the penalties to a minimum, they might have a chance to stop the air attack. And the third and final key is to keep the foot on the gas. The Raiders played aggressive last week, and it did not slow down, and it worked for them. If they must do the same here in order to beat a tough rival like the Chargers. Justin, what do you think the odds are for the Raiders to win this game? Is it more in Raiders' favor or Chargers' favor?
It's pretty even. They got the Raiders a little bit favored. I'm assuming that's because of the Chargers' injuries. But I wanted to ask you, obviously as an organization, you don't want to lose games. You never want to tank. That's never the goal.
Yeah.
But if you're the front office, what are you looking at as far as the outcome of the season? Would you like? Would you like to push for a playoff run in a heavily contested AFC conference? Or do you want to make sure your guys like Waller and Renfro, stay healthy and you don't push them too much to try to make a run for next year?
I think for a guy like McDaniels, especially since he, struggled in that long stretch where they just kept doing nothing but lose, it'd probably be best for them to win out so he can save face. I'm not one of those guys that agrees for tanking, but we'll see how it plays out. Moving from football to another, let's head to our discussion panel to catch up on the excitement of the World Cup.
Thank you, Diego. My name is Lena Atu, and it's been a very interesting World Cup since the last time we spoke about it. I'm joined by Chris, Justin, and Facundo to talk all things World Cup. Guys, thank you guys so much for joining me. Let's get started. What is the biggest surprise so far in this World Cup?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I'd have to say it's Belgium, just how bad they've been. I mean, I expected them, honestly, to be one of the favorites to win the World Cup, but a lot of analysts were saying that they're too old, and even their players were saying they were too old as well. So, I mean, I guess they were right about that. So they've just been a big disappointment. I mean, I know they got to the semi-finals in the last World Cup, but surely with this so-called golden generation, that they should have at least won a competition.
100%. And don't look at me like I'm crazy, but my surprise is actually France, and I'll tell you why. There's never been a team that has won back-to-back World Cups. And championship hangover is a real thing. We've seen it with Germany when they won in 2014 and couldn't even make out the group stage in 2018. We've seen it with Portugal. They barely struggled to get out the group stage after they win the Euros, right? And they lost against Uruguay in the round of 16. We've seen it with Italy. They just won the Euros last year, and they couldn't even qualify for the World Cup. Also, to put on the fact that they have two great midfielders in Conte and Pogba, who are a big asset to that team. As far as on-field chemistry and overall team chemistry, and they elevate their game come international play as well. And you can't forget about losing arguably one of their best players, Ballon d'Or winner, Karim Benzema, right? So a lot of shifting moves around there, and they're looking really good. But their group stage wasn't as competitive as others, so I still don't see them making it far.
Yeah, I would have said Belgium, but I think the surprise team is Japan. I mean, beating Germany 2-1, beating Spain today 2-1. I think Germany and Spain were some of my favorites going into this tournament. To get results against them after struggling against Costa Rica and losing 1-0 there, I think Japan getting out of the group and winning the group is the surprise team for me.
How far do you guys think that the USA is going to make it?
I'd say they could beat Netherlands potentially. I mean, Netherlands, especially a couple of their players haven't had the best season. I'm thinking of Virgil van Dijk in particular. And USA is a very attacking team. They're not the best at kind of finishing their chances, but they have a lot of creators that can put pressure on the team. So we could see them get a surprising result there. But I mean, Netherlands, and they didn't have the best group either, Netherlands, to be honest.
Right.
So I mean, it's going to be a tough challenge for Netherlands. So I think USA could pull that off. Beyond that, having some tougher teams, potentially Argentina, I think it is, in the final 8. So maybe not, but they could at least get past the final 16, I think.
Yeah, I think they showed a lot of great attributes during that group stage, but playing against a team like Netherlands, right, USA likes to play the ball out wide and put set pieces in and get those crosses in, but with a tall and big back line with the Netherlands, that won't work out. And we've seen when USA played against Iran, that last game, when they were on their back heels throughout the final third of the game, Iran was getting all those shots on goal, right, and they were causing issues. So if USA gets caught on their back foot, I kind of see this going into overtime. Maybe Netherlands taking this into overtime.
I agree with that take. I think the U.S. plays to the level of their opponent quite often. So I think against the Netherlands, you'll get a good team. I think the midfield three for the U.S. has been really impressive. I think that, like you're saying, JB, I think they'll get into overtime. They might not win in overtime just because it's super hot, a lot of minutes being played. I see them winning in penalties, but then you got to play Argentina. So I think the furthest they go is probably the quarterfinal. And if they beat Argentina, they got Brazil after that. So it's a tough stretch for the U.S., but I could see a quarterfinal run. And going into the tournament, I think they would consider that a success.
Yeah, I like their midfield play. Their midfield's top-notch right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I know you mentioned the final 16. What upsets do you think are going to happen?
Ooh. Well, I was picking, I think Portugal and Brazil was who I was picking. But like you said, France is really surprised. I mean, I'd pick France right now, to be honest. And
like
it's
that one.
surprising though, really, because with the injuries, their team's actually changed quite a bit from that 2018 team.
A lot of shifting pieces.
They got a lot of like new youngsters in the team, but they look good. They honestly look like the best team right now. And obviously you got Mbappe there who can change a game just like that. So, I mean, I'd pick them.
So you said Brazil and Portugal might be an upset too?
Well, no, I originally thought they were going to win.
Okay, got you.
I still kind of do, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, to no surprise, Brazil's looking great. A lot of people were harping on their back line because they are getting up there in age, but they have not allowed a single shot on goal. So looking great. Portugal's looking phenomenal. Upset, I'm going to go with France. I think that's going to be upset coming.
I would say Argentina, even with the start that they had, and it was pretty bad. They dominated against, I forget who they played just now, but they dominated
Mexico.
that game. Mexico, and then followed it up against Poland. I think 25 shots in that game. Poland didn't really create any chances. Argentina, but if you're asking me about an upset in the round of 16, I think Morocco could upset Spain here in this next round.
And let me just give Australia some love as well, man. Like Australia, for real, nobody talks about Australia being kind of a surprise.
Silent assassin.
They just came out of nowhere, and they're playing Argentina as well. So Argentina already got upset by Saudi Arabia.
Well, look
so
at
that could happen as
Australia has nothing to lose, right? They weren't even supposed to make it out of the group stage. So
exactly.
Argentina has everything to lose. Their best player, arguably the best player of all time, is in his last World Cup.
Yeah.
So everything's on the line for Argentina.
Yeah. Any changes to who you guys think is going to win the whole thing?
Not really. I mean, France. I didn't think France were going to win before, so I'd kind of just go with them, to be honest. I mean, they've looked the best so far. I was picking Portugal and Brazil before, so I'd go, France for sure.
Yeah, remember we talked about in the last show, we had Portugal as a sleeper,
Yeah.
but I got them as a favorite right now. They're looking great with Bruno Fernandes. He's playing top-notch ball. They have Leao over there and João Felix. Their back line is looking great, and they don't put all the pressure on the defense all the time, but when they do get those chances, they're very efficient. So Portugal's looking like a good favorite.
I'd say anybody can win it based off the results in this tournament, but I still think my three favorites going in are the three favorites now: Brazil, Argentina, and France. Portugal could be a sleeper, but they almost tied against Ghana right there at the last second with a weird play. Uruguay outplayed them for the majority of the second half. If Portugal can get it together and shore up the defensive end, I can include them as a favorite as well.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen within the next few weeks. And talking about the World Cup, Diego, back to you.
Next up, we have your update on esports in the world and at UNLV. Tell us about it, Sebastian.
Welcome back to your esports update. My name is Sebastian Rooney, and I'm here to give you all you need to know about esports at UNLV in Las Vegas and internationally. Let's start with Rainbow Six Siege. Last week, Rainbow Six held the third major of the year in Jönköping, Sweden. Here, 16 of the top teams in the world battled it out until there was only one team left standing. The grand finals saw the French team of BDS take on Brazil's Team Liquid. The series took all 5 maps as neither team refused to give an inch, but in the end, after what may have been the game of the year, BDS were able to walk away with the title of Best Team in Rainbow Six. Congrats to all the players, and now we await the Siege Invitational happening in early 2023.
It's a 3 versus 4. Oh my, BDS! A tour de force from BDS. They are your major champions.
Bringing it back to UNLV, the Rebel Crusaders Overwatch team has qualified for the Overwatch Collegiate Homecoming. Here, they will be competing against 31 other schools in a Swiss-style tournament to see who will walk away with $28,000. Games begin December 2nd, and we wish the Crusaders good luck for the tournament. And that's it. My name is Sebastian Rooney, and this has been your Vegas Esports Update.
This week for our mental health segment, Rebel Report's Marie Perrant met with Dr. Raven from the Caps to talk about the difficulties from some athletes experience while being under the spotlight. Let's take a listen.
My name is Dr. Raven, and I am one of the psychological assistants at the Counseling Center here at UNLV.
So can you elaborate about your mission at CAPS? Like, what do you do on a daily basis? What's your long-term picture for students here at UNLV?
Yeah, so the goal at CAPS is to make sure that we are providing, mental health support and resources for all of the students here, including our student athletes. We want to make sure that students feel supported, feel heard, and that we're providing them with the best care that we can possibly provide for them. So I feel like student athletes need a little bit extra support just from the fact that they're always in the spotlight. There's a lot of pressure coming from a lot of angles. You have general students, they worry about school and your day-to-day living things, but then a student athlete has to worry about school on top of performing, on top of meeting school deadlines, and then on top of just being broadcasted in front of the world. And there's a lot of pressure that comes with that, and it can be hard to juggle. And so us being able to provide them with additional support is really, really important.
Like working out is like a way to let it out and feel better and stuff. And do you feel like for athletes it can be a little reversed, where like sport can be the source of the anxiety?
Yes, absolutely, definitely. Sports can definitely be a safe place for athletes, and it can also be a cause of their stress and anxiety. And so one of the things that we've been working on this year is encouraging athletes to find other outlets outside of their sport, because when your sport becomes super stressful, where else do you have to turn? And so we've been encouraging athletes to, try other hobbies, find other support groups outside of your teammates and things like that, so that you do have a safe space outside of just athletics in general. Yeah, we've definitely had athletes who have had to take a break from their sport because of their mental health. And that's just something we can't avoid, right? Like, everyone deals with stress and things like that very differently. And so we do encourage athletes, listen to your body, just like you would a physical injury. If your mental health is not where you want it to be and you feel like you need to take a step back to kind of reassess and take that time to work on your mental health, absolutely.
And you talk about that spotlight, so it's true. I mean, for many students, like, athletes are they're stars, and they're gonna become even, if they make it to like professional teams, it's gonna be multiplied by like 100,000.
Yes.
So how do you feel like the spotlight is difficult for them to handle sometimes? Is it like family pressure or friendships or fandom?
Yes, I would say a combination of all of those things, because they want to be perfect. They don't want to make mistakes, because that people are going to talk about it the next day, and your coaches are going to talk about it, your family's going to talk about it, your teammates are going to talk about it, your friends are going to talk about it. And so there is this perfectionism that comes with that, and as we all know, there's no such thing as perfect. And so it's really hard sometimes to want to achieve something that's not achievable, but also being able to, deal with the criticisms and the things that come with being in the spotlight all the time. It's almost like, they feel like they can't have the true college experience because there's always someone watching. There's always going to be someone that has, something to say about what they're doing. And so that can be really difficult, and we try to help them navigate that.
You talked about other activities that it can do to let the pressure out and just like kind of reposition themselves. So like what kind of activities do you feel like is helping, like aside from sport, obviously?
Yeah, definitely. We feel like spending time with friends or teammates outside of your sport, taking time to do just day-to-day things, whether that's reading, writing, watching your favorite shows, going to your favorite restaurant. Journaling is something that I know a lot of athletes enjoy and do. Other hobbies, I have some athletes who enjoy, painting and doing puzzles, and all of those things are part of taking care of yourself and taking care of your mental health. So it's okay when you need to kind of detach from, your world that is athletics and do something that kind of takes you away from that.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Raven. You're definitely a huge help for our student athletes. Jade and I will be continuing our discussion on mental health next week. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Marie, for yet another great mental health segment. And thank you to everyone for tuning into this episode of the Rebel Report.
Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook to stay up to date on the latest UNLV and local sports news.
And also, make sure to check out our podcast on Spotify.
Until next time, I'm Diego Escobar.
And I'm Justin Brooks. Now, before we go, I got two questions.
What's up?
Is it soccer or is it football?
Oh, that is wherever you decide to be on the world for that one, man.
And also, will you be tuning in for the USA-Netherlands game this weekend?
Oh, yeah, I got to support the home team since Mexico lost.
All right, thank you, folks, and have a good one.
Have a good one.